Hi everyone, and welcome back to the channel. So today we are doing something a little bit different, and we're going to be running down my personal top 10 scenes slash moments from the first season of The Wheel of Time. So with that being said, let's jump right in and get down to number 10, Lan's Malkieri family in Faldara. Now I love this scene for many reasons. I love the fact that it's kind of a continuation of the cat and mouse to begin with between Lan and Nyneave, when we kind of see Lan amusingly let Nyneave think she's tracking him, with him being unawares of the fact, which is far from the truth. And then, he goes in and he meets his, adopted family. The man that literally saved his life in Malkieri when he brought him out of the city when he was an infant, and is now basically his adopted father. And he greets him as he would his own father, and the rest of the family in there.
Let me see your face.
Same.
Now, what I really loved about this particular scene in there, it does a couple of things. It showcases Lan in a family environment, which I thought was really smartly kind of engineered into the scene, as it gives a glimpse for Nyneave into what her future could be with Lan. But it also, on the flip side of things, it also shows Lan himself in a different light that we haven't necessarily seen, with his interactions with everybody in the room. And of course, with the added bonus that everybody in that room was, of course, Malkieri. But what I love as well, there's that back and forth between Lan and Nyneave, and then of course he invites her into his home.
You're just going to stand there? Or do you plan to come in?
And this is obviously a huge moment for the pair, because it's an acceptance from Lan to say, this is the woman I want to introduce to you all, which seems to be something he's not done before. And it's quite a big deal, as you can see from all their reactions in the home once she's in there, and how they treat her.
Everyone.
And I thought that was really a lovely moment as well within the scene.
This is Nyneave. Nyneave, this is everyone.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to intrude.
Please, sit. Sit.
Are you hungry, Nyneave Sedai?
Oh, no, I said I. But something to eat would be lovely, thank you.
Have a seat.
Number 9, Winternight. So it was vitally important that when they first introduced the Trollocs to us as the viewers, that they made sure that they portrayed them in such a manner where we felt they were a very credible source for the shadow. And with that being said, they managed to do a fantastic job of that. This scene had it all. It had Trollocs eating the townsfolk of the Two Rivers. It showcased them up against a Blade Master and a Bowman in Tam and Rand. And of course, even against an Aes Sedai and her warder. And across all three distinct sections of this long scene, they not only held their own, but also inflicted major injuries across the board. The sheer brutality at the beginning of this scene during the Baltine celebrations was a fantastic starting point, no less, and was done so in a clever manner. Having us see a Trolloc through the POV of Egreen, one of the main characters on the show, was a smart decision. We as viewers and Egreen herself all get to experience the attack firsthand. And with the team making sure throughout the entirety of this scene that there was a sense of panic and commotion and, absolute and utter chaos, it really helped to kind of showcase the Trollocs in the best possible light, albeit in the worst possible way. The surprise addition of having Moraine be injured by a Trolloc was a fantastic idea, as it keeps the scene fresh to those who have read the books, showing us that even though we've read these scenes on many an occasion, In this show, we don't have the luxury of knowing every, twist and turn with every scene that we kind of recognize from the books, because these were the starting points for the changes that would happen throughout the entire season. And of course, it shows that even a mighty Aes Sedai, who had killed a vast number of Trollocs up until that moment, can still be gravely wounded by a single Trolloc. And throughout the 3 different locations in which the Trollocs were invading the 2 rivers, they managed to inflict quite a lot of damage on, key individuals and across the whole board, setting them up very nicely as the key point of call for the Shadow in the first season. Number 8, the introduction of Thom Merrilin. Thanks to the first couple of episodes in this season, we already knew that Thom would not be introduced in the same way he was in the books. It was just a matter of where and when. Enter episode 3 and Breen's Springs. This was the perfect entrance point for Gleeman Thom Merrilin. Now, not only was this a very well crafted scene, I also felt it was very much Wheel of Time to me. Now, the moment he stepped onto the screen and we saw him, stamp his foot down on that crate and began to perform was when I was, hooked. I was very much one of the patrons in the inn in that moment. The camera angles they chose to have at the beginning of his performance helped greatly immerse us all into the scene. It encompasses a number of the patrons within the inn listening and watching intently to the masterful Thom Merrilin performing. Each person that they focused in on for a number of seconds held an expression that they all can relate to the song that Thom was reciting. And the fact that the song/poem was created specifically for this scene in mind, it adds another level of detail for me personally to this scene. Now, Thom Merrilin isn't just a simple gleeman now, is he? He has many other tricks up his sleeve, and we're introduced to 1 or 2 of them just as he's leaving his stage. While he had stopped performing for the majority of the people in the inn, he was still performing for 2 people in there, that of course being Rand and Mat, right up until the moment he leaves the inn, giving them an expensive life lesson no less. A masterful performance from both actor and character.
A bloody expensive lesson.
The best ones are.
Number 7, the Warder Campfire. Now, looking back in retrospect at this scene, I have a tinge of sadness now when I, watch it, but we'll save that for another video and the reasons why. For this one, let's just focus in on what I loved about it. Now, to begin with, of course, there is a few things that this scene does extremely well, and this isn't just for us as the audience, but it's also for Nyneave herself. So what I'm talking about is, of course, the fact that we are seeing the warders in a new light, in a more human, natural environment in which they're all just basically among their own peers and their friends and just having a good time and, taking the general piss out of each other.
And that was the end of Alan Mundragoran, tamer of horses.
Fancy name.
Yeah, for a shit horseman.
So, how'd you get stuck with him? Tell me.
Maureen and I were traveling past her village. And
I tracked him.
I like her.
It's one of those moments I feel it was a very natural scene, and that is a testament to all the actors in it. So essentially what this scene really helps to push across to us as viewers, but also to Nyneave, is the simple fact that these are all people, but they have a greater and larger role in the world. And so I think it starts to allow Nyneave to see them all in a different light, and in particular Lan, of course, as well. And so she takes a bit more of a softening to them all, and because she's seeing them all in a more jovial and more natural environment where they can just be themselves and not have to worry about any of the, difficult situations that their jobs will find themselves in. But not only does it do that, on that one hand, we also have a more serious moment in this scene as well. And that is, of course, when they do actually talk about that bond between Aes Sedai and Warder.
No bond is closer than an Aes Sedai and her Warder. Not husbands and wives. Not parents and children. You know what Aes Sedai means in the old tongue? Servants of all.
Now, I thought the way that was written, it was acted out, and just generally how it explained the bond between an Aes Sedai and Warder was, really well crafted. And I think it really showed to the audience as well as to Nyneave just how, strong and powerful a bond it is. And of course, I cannot not mention the green adger aspect of this Warder campfire now, can I? This was quite amusing to watch and to see, Nyneave learn about that aspect of being in the green adger, because I don't think she had any inkling at all that was what was going to be going on here. And it was something that you could be doing as an Aes Sedai.
The three of them don't.
I'm feeling a bit tired myself.
Number 6, and we are back with Thom Merrilin, but this time it's really all about Mat Coltham. And this is of course the moment when they go and bury the Aiel. Now, what I love in particular about this scene, it really helps to hone in on and solidify the changes to Mat's character that they made very much early on in the first episode. In particular, I'm talking about his parents and just the way his upbringing has been. And so we've seen Mat in a more selfish state throughout this season. And we know how that ends, of course, for certain reasons and whatnot. But this scene really helps to solidify the fact that it's all coming from a place of kind of love and affection and nature of him wanting to get back to his sisters in the Two Rivers.
This is the last time I'll ask you. What are you doing here?
Need money to get home. Thought you might have some. Not like he needs it.
Now, of course, at the beginning of this scene, we see Thom walking up to a Mat who was now starting to kind of rummage through the Aiel and his possessions. And of course, Thom, not understanding Mat or learning anything about him from their encounter a little bit earlier on in the inn, he just thinks this is a typical kind of chancer or, someone that's just taking advantage of a situation.
What are you doing, boy?
Could ask the same of you, old man. Don't want to hurt you.
You'll bleed out before you could lay a finger on me.
I've not survived Trollocs to die at the hands of a singer.
But of course, once they start to speak to each other about the reasons behind why Mat is choosing to do what he's doing, Thom obviously will naturally, and as we can see, he softens his stance with Mat.
We've all had desperate moments. Tell me when you're finished.
once they've explained that to Thom, there's an understanding of from Thom on his behalf of, okay, this is for a much better reason. It's not what he thought and initially expected when he was watching Mat do this. And so he softens his stance and he turns away, which I thought was a really nice moment for Thom, just to let Mat go about his business, take what he needed to take off of the Aiel, because as Mat put it, he won't be needing it now, will he? And so after that, Mat was going to go away, but then, you know, Thom stated, well, we have to bury him. This got to show a bit of respect for this Aiel. And I thought that was a really cool, nice piece that they included at the end of the scene, which I wasn't, you know, initially expecting to actually be included. And of course, we had the addition of Thom, I believe off the top of my head, it was him saying, "May you always find water and shade." They used that in a kind of funeral ceremony manner. And I thought that was a nice added touch, because it also was the first instance of the audience, minus us book readers, learning a little bit more about what it is to be an Aiel, which I thought was really cool. And of course, we have to also mention the fact that there is this very small carving of, I believe it was a stone dog, which of course, as we all know, is one of the septs from the Aiel, which I thought was a nice addition to this scene as well.
Rest, warrior of the threefold land. May your soul find water and shade. What's your name, lad?
Matt Cawthon.
Number 5, the introduction of Loial. Now, this is a very short scene, but it's one that I thought really had to be included, because I thought it was a fantastic introduction to a beloved character throughout the entire fandom. And no matter what people can say about the costume or whatever, just the way Loial is introduced in the perfect setting and environment, once again being in a library, and of course meeting Rand first and foremost, was perfect. And we have to talk about the way Loial was portrayed by the actor Hamid. Now, I thought this was a spot-on kind of interpretation of how Loial would actually sound when we were listening to him and not reading his, you know, POVs and his spoken moments throughout the books. And I thought that was fantastic to listen and hear to. And I just had this huge beaming smile across my face the entire time this scene was going on. I love the kind of particular care and attention that was paid to the way Loial would be speaking to everyone. And it was, of course, in that very slow, but also in a manner of it being a hugely prolonged process to get to the point. And that was a, you know, really ingenious way, obviously, to showcase the differences between an Ogier and a human.
Really? Red hair is one of the few physical traits that can help you work out where a human is from.
I'm from the Two Rivers.
An Aielman from the Two Rivers?
I'm not an Aielman.
An Aielman from the Two Rivers who insists that he is not an Aielman. That is very odd. I like oddities.
Humans are going at fast paces because they have a shorter, you know, lifespan, whereas an Ogier has a vast number of years ahead of them, excuse me. And as we all know, Loial, even at his age, if you were to consider him as a human, he would be very much in the twilight years of his life, but he is not. He is an Ogier very much still in his infancy. And so that was, I think, a really cool way of introducing and talking and explaining the differences between what an Ogier and a human's kind of mindset and the way they go about their day-to-day life happens. And of course, I have to mention the fact that they put in these really cool Easter eggs for us book readers of the Tales of Jane Fastrider, which I thought was really cool to actually see them include these, you know, nuggets of Easter eggs for us throughout all the scenes in the first season.
Why would the travels of Jane Fastrider make you sad? It's a first-class adventure.
No, A girl I know used to read this book every day. Thought she was Jane herself reincarnated.
Well, that would be quite unlikely. With all the humans, all...
It's just something she thought, you know.
I see. I forget how frivolous you humans can be with your thoughts. Where is she now, this girl?
Number 4. Nynaeve's use of the One Power for the first time. Now, where do we begin with this scene? From the misdirection that affects both newcomers and book readers alike, to the scene showcasing for the first time on screen the beginnings of burning for Aerys Sedai. This scene in my mind is most certainly a top 3 candidate, if not the best scene in the entire season. Now, what this scene does perfectly is it misdirects both long-time readers of the book series and newcomers to the show. This scene, of course, was created specifically for the show, and of course the added bonus that has, particularly for us book readers, is it throws us completely off guard and we don't necessarily have a clue what is going to be happening. And I have to say, for myself personally, for a couple of seconds I really thought they were going to do a huge major change in the show. It's a complete misdirection, being thrown at all of us collectively, and I think that's what made the scene very impactful for me personally as well. Even I was shocked for a second to see what was unfolding on screen, with everyone appearing to be killed by Logain momentarily. And I'm sure I wasn't the only person thinking this. The fact that they even played around with the idea of killing off some of the main characters that early on was shocking to watch and should have left an impression that no one can be truly safe from being offed. Now, of course, this doesn't happen because this entire scene has essentially been created in order to fast forward the process of Nyneave unleashing the One Power to save everyone within the cave. Now, of course, this went hand in hand with the speeding up process of Lan and Nynaeve's relationship, with them getting a lot of screen time with one another, and was very much so one of the main subplots for the entire season. Witnessing someone she had clearly started to develop strong emotions towards on the brink of death was the natural catalyst to push her to embrace and use the One Power to heal everyone. This scene to me was the highlight in terms of the emotional impact that it had on me. Number 3, The Ways. The Ways was something I was really looking forward to see being brought to life, and it didn't disappoint. For me, the main points I wanted the team to get right was the atmosphere held within the race, and of course that it had the look that I'd always envisioned in my mind while reading the scenes in the series. Thankfully, they managed to do just that, although it did have a few alterations from the books. But I really felt that the slight adjustment that they made with Machin Sin really paid off for them with what they were trying to accomplish out of that change. When the group made their way to the Waygate exit to Faldara, the group became under siege from Machin Chin, which divulged each of their deepest secrets and insecurities to us as the audience, and of course to each of the characters as well.
You're nothing. An imposter, a fraud. Egwene will never love you as much as you love her. She loved you once, and she'll leave you again. You wanted Layla dead, out of the world. That's why you killed her, because you loved another woman more than your wife. You can't protect her. You'll watch her die. You'll hear their screams as they die, just like you heard your parents.
This change was also even used in the reveal of the Dragon Reborn much later on in the episode, which was another smart choice by the team. And I'm sure some of the revelations that we heard within this scene will no doubt be explored further in Season 2. Number 2, the Bloodsnow. Now, this was a scene I don't think a lot of us, if any of us, was really expecting to see brought to life before we saw these very quick glimpses of it in the teaser trailers that we got. This scene is such a pivotal moment, especially in the manner in which it was inserted into that 7th episode, leaving the key reveal for much later on towards the end of it. This is the first scene in which we see an Aiel showcase just what they are all about. Because, I mean, up until that point in this series, we really hadn't seen them shown in the best possible light now, had we? We'd had...
I'm not an Aielman.
Really?
And on the other hand, we've had someone who was already being killed and locked up in a cage. Now, all the talk of them being this fearsome warriors hadn't really been shown up until this point. Now, not only does this scene help to reveal one of the most important moments for where we are at this point in the show, with Rand being revealed as the prophesized dragon reborn, we are also shown where Thom, Rand's adopted father, got his heron marked blade from, which was something that hadn't been explained, as everyone else in the Two Rivers have hardly any combat experience, which I'm sure was a little bit perplexing or peculiar for people who thought about it. And of course, it was really cool to see an Aiel in action, finally showcasing the fighting skills which they are renowned and feared for across the land, while being in labour no less. The fight choreography was thought out very well with the choice of weapons that were being used in this scene, which is quite a contrast there between, both swords and spears. And I'm sure for book readers, this scene made you think about a certain scene involving brothers and another man who likes to use spears. And that's a scene I, fingers crossed, cannot wait to see be brought to life. And finally, we are at the Tale of Manetheren. Now, to think this scene wasn't even going to be included had it not been for Rafe Judkins, persistent, fighting of the system, if you want to call it that, to make sure the scene was included, I think is mind-boggling. It's one of those scenes which helps to expand the world building for this show. And of course, it introduces new pieces of the lore that Robert Jordan had very much written about throughout the entirety of his book series. Now, what I loved about this scene is the organic nature in which this story arises. So, to begin with, Maureen is very much starting to feel the effects of the Trolloc spear, dagger, or whatever it was that was, thrown into her shoulder region. And Matt can kind of pick up upon the kind of accompanying doom and gloom that is kind of taken over the group. And so he decides to kind of burst into song.
We walk the footsteps of our fathers, the trail blazed by our mothers. They bore the land with their blood. Long ago, oh, sing of Manetheren, oh, weep for the blood of Aemon.
Now, of course, little did they know this song had very much a deeper meaning, to which Moraine went on to explain the song's meaning, and then went even further and explained the backstory to the land they are occupying now, and then being descendants of the once great nation known as Manetheren. And I think just the natural, organic way in which this, unfolded was a fantastic way to go about introducing this piece of lore into the show. And for the audience, of course. For me, this was one of the few scenes in the entire first season where we've got a moment to kind of explore the bigger backstory and some of the lore from the past ages, and where each of these kind of new nations have sprung up from. And I think it was needed because we hadn't seen a lot, or even listened or watched a lot of kind of the world building. We were very much plunked into the series. We were explained where XYZ was. This is Tar Valon, this is the Two Rivers, this is Taren Ferry, and whatnot, with no kind of explanation of how they came to be. So I think this was one of those moments that was very much needed in the show. helped to, you know, world build, helped to show and explain a bit of the lore, and just overall it was a really cool scene. I'm not really doing it a lot of justice in this explanation, but I have spent too many days and weeks trying to figure out how to end this video, and that's where I'm going to end it, guys. I'm sure you can get a better impression out of it for yourselves than I've explained poorly in this particular final scene on my top 10 list. But anyway, yeah, so that is the video. I really wanted to end it here. I was having so much trouble trying to finish it, but there we go. Alright guys, I hope you've all enjoyed it. If you have, please leave a like on the video. I would greatly appreciate that, as always. And thank you for watching. I should be back to a more natural schedule of uploading much more weekly videos from now on, after my long month break. Right guys, thank you all for watching. I'll catch you all later on in the week.